Hey there you guys, welcome to TurnipHead Art. I'm Nick, and in today's video I'm going to tell you about the time I was a disrespectful student in 8th grade. I don't like to tell the stories where I look like a huge a-hole, but I do like to be honest, and I think it's a good learning experience. Also up front, I want to say I'm sorry about my voice in this one. The audio sounds bad. I'm just coming off of a cold, but I needed to put audio on this video. So I've been pretty good at taking tests my whole life. I read the material, I take pretty good notes, and then I pass the tests. But schools aren't that convenient, so they have to fill all the rest of the time with assignments and practice tests. In middle school, I got into a lot of trouble for refusing to do my assignments. I could not stand doing something when it was too easy. I felt no sense of accomplishment from sitting for hours scribbling the answers to simple questions when I could easily be reading something I didn't already know, expanding my mind and broadening my horizons. But no, in school you have to sit here, do a workbook page with a list of questions. But yeah, if it's so easy, just get it over with. Rip it like a Band-Aid. Just do the work and be done with it. Yeah, it's easy, but it takes time. And honestly, if I had that extra time, I would be learning something I don't already know, mastering skills that I actually would need to practice. But memorizing tables and equations and things like that is actually pretty easy, especially in the short term. So like I said, in middle school, I decided to be a rebel and change the system. So I stood up in class in front of our science teacher while he was writing up our agenda on the chalkboard. And I said, "I'm not doing any more homework, just test me now." And he looked at me like if I was an adult, he would have knocked me out. See, we had just started a chemistry unit, and this is information no one else had seen, no one else in the class knew. And I happen to be pretty good at memorizing information. Retaining it for long periods of time, on the other hand, not so hot. So he did. He sat me in the back of the chemistry lab with the test he pulled out of his bag and told me, "If you get an A, I won't assign you any more homework for the rest of the year. But if you fail, you will have detention for the rest of the week for disrupting my class." And smug child I was, that was no problem. So I worked on my test while he continued writing out the work on the board, and I finished before he even moved into the lecture portion of the class. And he did look a little shocked when I turned it in, but that was that. I took my seat, and he looked it over while everybody else was copying down the work he had on the board. Then he went on with the class, and once everyone was getting to work with the assignment, he came over to me and said, "Mr. West, I'm going to need you to go out into the hall with me." And I was like, "What's going on?" Because I know I did well on this test. So I follow him out into the hall, and he looks super serious and stares me down and says, "How did you cheat on this test?" And I'm shocked. My mouth is wide. I don't know how to respond. And I just say, "I didn't. You even made me sit in the back of the class with none of my notes." And he shook his head like it was impossible to believe this. So he said, "I need you to go sit in the office, and I'll be there shortly with the principal." So I dragged myself to the office, and I flopped down in a chair by the reception desk. And him and the principal come around the corner, talking very loudly about how disrespectful I am and how I'm obviously a cheater. Then the principal stops in front of me and asks, "So did you cheat, or are we supposed to believe you're some kind of genius?" And I didn't know whether to grin at the compliment or frown because I didn't understand. And the science teacher looks at me and says, "There's no way you scored 100% on this without cheating." And I didn't understand because in the chemistry section I had already looked at in our books, all of these equations and tables and information were there. So I'm getting scared, and they're both staring at me like I'm a piece of scum. And then the principal says, let's call his mother. Now, I cannot stress how bad that idea was. This woman worked 3 jobs and could only sleep during the day while we were at school. Bothering her during the daytime was taboo. You just did not do it. But they did, and I had to wait there in that office, dreading her showing up. But it turns out when she got there, she was angry at them. And like a good mother, she defended me like crazy, but they wouldn't budge. So I was guilty, and that was that. And the arrangement was made. So my mother attended school with me every day, all day, for a week. Now, it really hurt that they didn't believe me. I knew I'd passed that test fair and square. But my mom had to lose sleep every single day for a week, and I felt so bad. Now, some kids would have been embarrassed to have their mother following them around school, and I'm one of them. So on top of feeling guilty, there was the embarrassment of my mother dozing off in the middle of class during the lectures next to me, snoring so loudly that it would startle her awake. Now, the great moral, I guess, I was supposed to learn is that most adults hate to believe a child could possibly be as smart or smarter than them. They refuse to believe it's true to the point that they will punish this child and their family for daring to disrupt their happy, ignorant existence. But if you're a kid watching this, don't do what I did. Prove yourself by being better than me. I was pretty disrespectful the way I handled it. But seriously, if any adults are watching this, kids can be smart too. Don't be a huge jerk when they prove it. Support them and motivate them to be better. So that's my story. I mean, I feel pretty bad about the experience because ultimately it did affect my mother pretty heavily. I mean, I'm sure working those long hours and not sleeping, except for the few minutes she got during her nap sessions in my classroom, were pretty rough on her. Ultimately, I think that there are some very big changes that need to happen in the education system, and I'm in no way a professional who is the head of a department of education anywhere. I just have some personal opinions, and I'm sure most people do. But that's my story. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And if you like the piece I drew today, let me know what you'd like me to draw next time. Drop it in a comment so I can pick it up and put it out in my next video. If you want me to do more digital stuff, let me know. I've got a review for the drawing tablet I use coming out soon. So that's it. I appreciate you guys hanging out. And always remember, you are awesome.